In this video, we're looking at writing equations, and we need to be able to translate equations from a sentence into an algebraic equation, and then from an algebraic equation into a verbal sentence. Our first one says translate each sentence into an equation. So the first thing we want to do is read through the sentence and figure out what the parts mean. So it says the sum of 8 and 3 times k equals the difference of 5 times k and 3. So one of the first things we want to look for is the equal sign, the statement that says equals, or the kind of the declarative statement that says is or was or equals, and it basically is the linchpin. It's the piece that connects the two parts of what you're talking about. And so this is going to be where your equal sign is, and then the things that come before are going to be on the left side, and the things that come after are going to be on your right side. And so it says the sum. So when they say sum, I know it's going to be a plus sign of, so that's what this tells me, a plus sign of 8 and 3 times k equals. Next thing is the difference. So difference means to subtract of, and now this has two pieces. So it's the difference of what two pieces? This is the first piece, and this is the second piece, because it's put together by an and. And so it's the difference, which means subtraction, of 5k and 3. In the second example, we have 3/4 of w plus 5 is 1/2 of w increased by 9. So again, we look for the is. The is statement tells us what one thing is compared to the other, which is basically saying one thing compared to the other, they're equal to each other. So 3/4 of w, so it's 3/4 of w. Now of tells us we're going to multiply 3/4 times w. So it's 3/4 of w plus 5 is 1/2 of, again that of is telling us we're going to multiply, so we have 1/2 of w increased by 9, which means we're going to add, the increase tells us a plus, increased by 9. In this example, we're looking at a word problem where we would write our equation and then solve it using the information provided. So Sam has $1,900 in the bank. He wishes to increase his amount to a total of $2,500 by depositing $30 per week from his paycheck. So there's some things we have. $1,900 currently in the bank, so that's what you're starting with. Then you want to end up with a total of $2,500. And you're going to do that by depositing, which means you're going to add to your bank account $30 per week. Okay? So first we need to define what our variable is going to be. And the only thing that's changing in this problem is the number of weeks. So we're going to define our variable as w, and we're going to say w is, or equals, the number of weeks. And I usually write the number as a shorthand of the number sign. And so
we're going to bring those over, right?
it's okay. And so we have the number of weeks, and that's w. So now we're going to write down what we have. So we have 1,900 is what we're starting with. And then we know that we want to end up with, so it's going to be equal to at the end, 2,500. And we have to leave a space because we're depositing, which means we're adding to our 1,900 $30 per week. Now, the per week tells us that we have to multiply the 30 by the number of weeks. The same way of saying that if I have candy bars that are $30 each, which would be a very expensive candy bar, and I have 5 candy bars, right? I'm going to multiply 30 times 5 to get the total amount I pay for the total amount of candy bars. So the amount of money I spend for candy bars. So it's the same concept over here. And so we're going to have 30 times w. And so it says write and solve an equation to find how many weeks he needs to reach his goal. So I've now written my equation. I'm going to end up with 2,500. I'm going to have 1,900 plus 30w. And so what we're really doing with this one is the following. when I solve a problem, and this is just something that I like to do, I like to start at the variable and see what's happening to the variable, and then go backwards. So what's happening to the variable? Well, the first thing that's happening to the variable, you're multiplying by 30, and you're adding 1900. So if I go backwards, right, if this is forwards, then backwards would be the opposite direction. Well, what am I doing in the opposite direction? Well, I'm going to subtract 30, because I'm going in the opposite direction. So subtract 1900, excuse me. And then I'm going to divide by 30. And so this part over here is solving. I'm undoing the kind of math that I see with the w that's already placed there. And so this is just a little trick to say, hey, this is what I'm going to end up doing. And now I have to go do it. So I'm going to make this, I'm going to group this and make it a little smaller. Okay, so that's just a little reminder of what's happening, or how I'm going to solve the problem. So I'm going to end up subtracting 1900 and then dividing by 30. And, well, I'm subtracting 1900 because that's the additive inverse. And then I'm going to end up with 30w is equal to 600. And then I'm going to divide by 30. And so I have a little guide on the side of the paper to let me know that I'm actually going to undo the math that I saw with the variable and get me to where I want to go. And that's going to be 20. So according to this, because we always want to make sure we answer the question and know what's going on, w equals 20, this is a nice thing to say, but w equals 20 means it will take 20 weeks. Or it takes 20 weeks for this to happen. So you must answer the question and say what exactly the variable means.